the suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
One of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
I got weed pots.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Stoned Appetite. With your host, as always, it's me, Kip, and across the casting couch, I got Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great. We're in Studio 1A.
That we
not to be misconstrued as Rockefeller Plaza, but we're in Studio 1A at Kip's Casa. Studio 1B is our off-site location.
I would even say 1A stands for One Arvada Place. So, you know?
Nailed it.
Thank you. That's not our real address, so if you're trying to send me anthrax after this episode, you'll just have to use a Freedom of Information Act like everybody else to find where we live. But we have an exciting episode for y'all. We're going to recap Dank Eats. We're going to get fired up and ready for tonight's Halloween party that we're throwing down. We're going to talk little costumes, little snacks, little what cannabis we'll be diving into. And then we're going to do a little batch ballot breakdown, things of that nature. So we're going to talk about all that. Personally, we both hate both sides. Chris and I vote on the opposite side for most things, but sometimes we find commonality and hatred of all politicians under the sun. So we'll keep it pretty.
But it is important to be involved.
Yeah, if you don't vote, you can't bitch. It's something I was told at a young age. So I've tried to make sure we vote in all midterms, local elections, things of that nature. Because you want to be able to complain, you want to be able to yell at your city councilman and things of that nature, and your governor and your mayor as well. So we got a great episode this week. It's brought to y'all by Standing Akimbo Dispensary. Y'all know them. Y'all have heard about them. It's the #1 medical dispensary in Colorado. There are other places, maybe even places where you can take your med badge and get a quicker experience because it's closer to the house or what have you, but you won't find the deals that you find at Standing Akimbo. They have dank ass drops every single day of the week, whether it be edibles, cartridges, concentrates, flour. They've got something for everyone. Fuck, if you're looking for the elusive Shaolin knife, they've got those puppies over there. So if you're looking for the crazy 500 milligram dialed in rosin gummies, they got them for $30 fucking, Chris. I mean, come on. If you're shopping as a recreational patient, you're buying them in 100 milligrams every fucking time you're going in there. You can do that all one fell swoop with one visit to the doctor.
Because that would cost you over $100 trying to equal that.
Exactly. And the doctor's visit, getting the license combined is $100. So not only would you make your money back in one edible purchase, but not only would you have great deals on everything else you like to buy as well. So there's no reason if you live in Colorado, you should have your med card if you're smoking pot. Shit, even if you don't live in Colorado, get that med card anyway. So when you do fly in, we just got to check that ID, and I think it works. I'm not exactly sure. But if you have your med card, go check them out. 3801 Jason Street, and they have different deals every day of the week. You have online ordering. You can go through Weed Maps or their website, and you can see their daily deals of the week as well. So it's our 1A. And our 1B, Chris, like we were talking about with our 2 offsite locations, is our rec spot, Callie's Cannabis. 3 locations across the metro. Great deals. They have a rewards program that's literally paying us to get high, especially for those that don't have their med license. But they have all the bells and whistles that we just talked about. Concentrates, great flour, edibles, cartridges. So if you're just maybe you're about to go out for the night, and you're in Rhino, stop in, grab a pre-roll. They've got something for everybody. They even have the elusive dialed in, combo packs. They even have a couple of the Stoned Appetite dart pods left. So go check those folks out. Those are our 1-2 punch. Whew. Speaking of 1-2 punch, Chris, give us a little recap. What you been up to?
Oh, man, the weekend was great. I had some more peeps in town. So Steph's mom was in town, and we did all the fun things. We kicked things off. Well, first of all, before that, Tuesday night, went and saw Marcus King at the Mission.
How was that? You lived at the Mission last week.
I know. It was great. Marcus King shreds. He's going to Aspen in like January with his old band. But it was fucking insane. It was a great concert. Love the Mission. Like every time I go, I'm just like, man, this place is just.
They built it with like people that enjoy like acoustics and the actual music, and like it's easy and accommodating to get a drink. There's sometimes not too bad of a bathroom line, and depending on who the concert is, there's usually not too bad of a wait. But it really isn't, and there's not a bad seat in the house. So even if you are the last one in, I mean, squeeze in and have a good time.
Yeah, and then Friday night, so we went back there Friday night for the Dip and the California Honey Drops.
How are the Honey Drops?
Oh, hell of a time,
dude. They kill it. They're so much fun.
They killed it. They brought the crowd together. Like, they're lighthearted. It's really like feel-good jiving music for a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
Love jiving to that. But no, like the horns in it were great. Like they came on at, I want to say like 9 or 9:30 and played straight through to midnight.
Hey, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it was fucking stellar. And then Saturday, we did dinner at Tav.
Oh.
And I guess I haven't had dinner there, and it's been a
since
they
hot fired
minute.
you.
Yeah, since I was let go.
Since you left the company.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, it's not like your every week restaurant, like, and if it is, then you're probably more successful than we are as we sit in this car in our podcast 1A.
Right. I just stopped receiving a paycheck.
Yeah.
So somebody fixed
the
glitch.
It works itself out. We've learned. No, but I mean, the menu obviously changes here and there, but they always have the hits as well. So, like, there's something for fucking everybody. It's easily in my regularly referral for special occasions.
Dude, they had this thing that was, I guess I'm probably going to butcher the name of it, but it's sfumato, and it's a sunchoke flan with duck prosciutto and this Concord grape and dandelion agrodolce, like a little sauce. It was fucking so goddamn delicious. Like, I can't get over it. That one, and then obviously they brought their old gnocchi back, and their gnocchi, like, right now is just so, it's soft. It's soft like a pillow. And then one of the best dishes of the night, though, was this linguine nero, and it's Dungeness crab, squid ink, bomba calabrese, and andouille breadcrumbs, like that spicy sausage breadcrumbs. And the Dungeness crab, and it tasted like the sea, and it was so goddamn good.
Well, while you're doing that, I was laid up all fucking week with a broken arm, so I'm like salivating right now just thinking of that dank. I mean, I did the week before, ate really well and did all that jazz. I mean, just you navigating through that menu right there just sounds delightfully wonderful.
Yeah, and then obviously we finished with tiramisu. Although there were other good options.
What's the ice cream with the espresso on top?
Affogato. Those are good.
That too. But that tiramisu is fantastic.
It's so goddamn good. And then we ended our week on Sunday with a little culture. We went to the Salvador Dali
out there at the
immersive.
Stanley?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Van Gogh one, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the exact same concept, although this has more of like...
Is this one better for mushrooms?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it would be. Like, I saw a video of his head, like, peeking around a corner, like, on obviously a digital screen or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, I want to fuck up party in this one, I mean, I think I just did the weeds on the last one. I may have eaten a little bit of a boom, but it feels like this one is set for a boom sesh.
Oh, my God. You could have a minor freak out there. There's a lot of shit going on, and Dali was...
Is it in the warehouse? Is it in the hangar, that big one where they always kind of do their stuff?
You just walk... I mean, like, it's in Stanley. Like, you walk back to the back.
Into that main hangar.
I guess it's, like, right behind where that big beer garden is or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But if you pair it on, like, say go on a Sunday, pair your meeting around, like, 4, you get out of there at, like, 4:30 when happy hour at a net starts. And then you can just have a cocktail.
There you get maybe a little snack.
$10 gin martinis all day.
So you played that very well.
I did.
Nicely done. Did you score points with the in-law?
Yeah. We had oysters and popcorn, obviously, just because it's a good snack, and drinks.
There you go. It sounds like you had about a quintessential weekend right there. Right before the weather starts turning, you did some autumn wholesome things, got to get out and eat, as well as, have a good time. So I'm glad to hear it. I don't have anything cool to report. I had surgery on my hand on
You're alive.
I'm alive. Yeah, so nothing really crazy on this end. I'm really fucking fired up for tonight, though. Halloween party, Chris? We have Chef Merlin, who runs and owns Street Feud over there on Colfax. He has come up with the gnarliest pack of food I've seen him do yet. And he's partnering up this time with Chef Long Nguyen from fucking Rapidos, which everybody knows is one of the best food trucks in town. They're about to open their brick and mortar in the coming, probably 23 if I had to guess, with Penelope from Yan Wonton and the Sweet and Sour Dough team as well, which we haven't had them on the pod or do a dinner. But these two, they're combining an 8-course dinner. Our friends over at Taste Buds have gotten us some edibles. Our friends at Binsk have gotten us some pre-rolls and some edibles. Veritas threw in some flour so everyone's smoking well. And then they're pairing all of the foods with our friend Charles and Callie's Cannabis. So they've been dialing it in.
And what really got my dick hard today, or actually yesterday, when we found out they were adding a little chili crisp to the gift bag.
Yeah, so Long and the fam have created a chili crisp that you can buy from their food truck whenever you may go see them at pop-ups at breweries and things of that nature. Well, he's going to give a little taste, and no one's actually been able to take any home before, except for in those little jars when you order. Well, not anymore. They're now for sale, and everyone at the party will be getting a first taste, as well as a first taste of a new cannabis product that will be hitting the shelves. We'll be talking about that in 2 weeks because the announcement will go tomorrow or tonight live. So I don't want to ruin the surprise for those that aren't here, but y'all are going to miss out on one fucking huge party.
Holiday season parties and dinners are just better than all the rest. Like, summer barbecues are great, but you can do that over the course of 6 months. This is like specific days. We got this shit going on.
Yeah, and it's a gauntlet. So, obviously we have our event tonight. Tomorrow night is the barn party with Kendall Norris and Mason Jar, who we partnered with on the Penelope Wong dinner up in Boulder. And then there's Halloween this weekend. There's fucking events all over the place. So if you're looking to grind up on somebody, maybe see if you can get lucky in your costume, this is a great weekend. It's like there's something every night of the week, and it starts with us. We're the first runners in the, before we pass the baton. So let's go lay the fucking hammer down.
Yeah. Come to us and then segue that into all these other events.
Exactly. And speaking of segues, Chris, I didn't mention that Batch Extracts will also be at the party, sharing the love. If y'all are looking for cartridges, they're fucking delicious. They have a wide product line, so if you're looking for flavors or just straight, gassy terps, they've got something for everybody. It's what I called last week was the Miller Lite of cannabis cartridges, because it's approachable. You can find it at 200 other locations besides the ones that we always shop at, medicinal and recreational, and they have a litany of other products as well. It's not just Batch Extracts that's kicking ass. They also have those mixed dissolvables that I know knock your dick in the dirt. And they also got our minds right for the second half of this episode today, Chris. Are you ready to do it?
I'm not ready, but we have to do this. It's a service.
Yeah, so we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's the ballot breakdown. So what we're going to talk about here today is just the basic. Everyone can vote whoever they fucking want to for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, treasurer, all that shit, the Senate and the congressional districts. Obviously, if you don't know which district you're in, I'd recommend checking that out on the internet. You can probably see it on your fucking ballot. So we may not dive deep into those, but I can say that confidently, if you can't admit that Sleepy Joe won the 2020 election, then I have zero faith in you running any position of political office. Is that fair to say? That should be fucking understood at this point in time, right?
Oh yeah, if you're a supporter of scandaled election or whatever, no, come on now.
Yeah.
We're safe. We're a democracy.
Yeah, and to be honest, with all the lawsuits that Dominion's dropping the hammer on everybody else in the country, I feel very confident, in fact, that they wouldn't be going forward with a $1.3 billion lawsuit against Tucker Carlson and his friends if they didn't know that shit was on the button up. So fucking get over yourselves and stop reading newspapers that aren't real newspapers.
Just think if you're high up at Old Dominion, like you got to be thinking like, oh God, we're about to score, fellas. I quit.
I don't know how that goes down. Let's say you get the settlement of like 700 M's and maybe somebody like they take Tucker's ball and they put it in his mouth or something like on air. Like, how does that money get distributed? Is there like a group outing where it's like, hey team, we're all going to Barcelona with fucking Mayor Hancock? Like, how does that work?
Huge company retreat coming up, fellas.
Exactly. They're like, have y'all ever been to Monaco? We're going to go meet up with Mayor Hancock, who's
drive some F1.
Yeah. And I keep saying that because that came to light today that our mayor is kind of riding the coattails of the Denver Broncos to England and then Ireland and then Turkey. So when we want to complain about how people spend government money, that is a great righteous cause for us to complain about. But at the same time, he's not on the ballot this year. We'll talk about him versus Leslie Herod next year. But we do have a large ballot. I'd say it's one of the fattest ones that we've seen in some time. It's
a 6-pager.
Yeah. And for those that aren't readers, Kip, we're going to try to do this in an abridged version. You hear those dogs in the background? They're stoked about this episode. All right. So Chris, where do we want to dive in first? Should we talk about the Senate race with the incumbent Michael Bennet with challenger Joe O'Dea? Or do we want to just dive into the ballot issues that have really ruined our TV experience over the last 3 weeks?
I think maybe the ballot question.
All right, let's start with ballots.
Okay.
And then if we want to touch on Senate race, governor, and all of those things, we can. But let's start with the ballots. If you're looking for more information besides our two dumbasses talking about it, Colorado Public Radio has a voter guide. It's impartial, just as they always are, despite what your side you may lean. It just gives you information about who and how it will read on the ballot with basic nomenclature and things of that nature, or verbiage.
And it tells you who's for it and who's against it, with like links to like different people who are supporting this thing. So, if you want to dive deep, you can, but at the very surface level, it tells you really much all the information you need to know.
I love it. All right, so let's dive in. The first one's D, E, and F. Changes to charitable gaming operations, extend homestead exemption for gold-starred spouses, and a new judicial district. We're going to pass on those, but just because the other ones are a little bit more contentious, starting with Proposition FF, which is supposed to be the healthy meals for all public school students, Chris. But it seems like there are some folks that don't want to see this come to fruition for certain reasons, but it's mainly because where does the money come from to pay for these kids' food? Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. I think some people are also, where the money's coming from is a huge issue, but I think some other people have issues with just about kind of the necessary budget to carry this out, and with inflation and everything like that, it doesn't seem that there's a good grip on how the program's going to actually work, is what the opponents are saying, people who oppose.
And then those that are voting in pro of it are saying that obviously it's the No Child Should Go Hungry campaign, but we've oftentimes seen these inflated propositions come to the ballot without like actual fine-tuned, so people end up scraping off the fucking top.
Yeah, one of the worst arguments though for it was something about some Republicans that voted against it. They argued in committee that higher income children who don't need the program could use it, and money should instead fund academic programs.
So does that mean that it's automatic? So the contingency is the money would roughly come from an increase of tax on households that make over $300,000. Does that mean that tax is automatically going to happen? Like if you're rich, it's happening no matter what, and they're just trying to decide how to allocate the funds?
No, I think they're saying like in this, like obviously they're proposing a tax to fund this. And people are saying, well, why doesn't it fund academic programs instead?
Okay.
You know, like we could, if we're going to use money to contribute to education, let's use it differently.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a moot point, because if kids are hungry in school, they aren't going to learn. Like, I mean, it's just a sense of safety. So, I mean, read up on this one because it is interesting. But yeah, that's definitely something that's important and needs engagement.
No, and I think you're exactly right, because not only do, we saw it during the pandemic where kids, maybe not necessarily in your neighborhood or in my neighborhood, because we don't have kids, so we don't actually pay as much attention, but things that, like, those kids were dependent on being in school to be fed. And we know our friends, like Kevin and his wife and a lot of folks in the community meet up under a bridge and pack lunches for kids on Friday mornings to take home for the weekends and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Because it's, hunger shouldn't be plaguing the community, especially one where we have such residual income in some families and in some instances businesses. So I can understand wanting to feed them as long as it's properly allocated and budgeted. I think that is a great call in making folks maybe dig a little deeper, but the root of the plan is to help feed the kids that maybe, I guess, they'll get the blue book, I think is what it's called, where you have like a book that has stipends for your meals and things of that nature. So you have reduced price in food.
Yeah, it just helps with the food insecurity. Like, that's the thing too, like just worrying about where you'll get your next meal. Kids shouldn't have to go through that.
No, I couldn't agree more. So I think folks probably can see which way we're going to lean on that one, but we leave that up to everybody. The next proposition I wanted to briefly talk about, because it's more just in joking, is Proposition GG, which is giving voters more information about proposed tax changes. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I used to primarily vote based off of my pocketbook or my wallet. Like, I'm not going to vote for an increase in taxes. The government has shown that they don't do well with the money I have given them. Why would I give them fucking more of it? Well, I think in Proposition GG, we need to give voters as much fucking information about, because it's already worded like 5th century, Roman like, it's awful. It's like reading Odysseus, or the Odyssey, whatever it is. So giving more information, making a more informed voter doesn't necessarily benefit one side of the aisle as it does the other, but it's something that definitely should just be a quick check mark for everybody, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest issue with it is the cost. I think that's what it boils down to.
Okay.
Because apparently,
what's the is there an extra cost that's like, is it detrimental? Are
So-
people going to go
so I
without
guess
air
there-
conditioning in schools in the spring because of it?
I guess people are opposed for the more tax breakdowns on the brackets because they would obviously enlarge the bracket. And they say that this information already exists. But let's be honest, not many people are going to go looking for it unless it's right there for them. But then they say, so more expensive to print. And somebody states here, each additional page of the ballot costs an estimated $1.24 million extra statewide, which is a considerable amount of money.
That's a fair, I mean, are we starting to be the people that after, the money machines went burr, 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 we're now starting to be like, oh, wait, giving more information is the reason we're going to cut it off? Like, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the spending that we use, but to create a more informed voter base, I would think everyone should be kind of on board with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like taxes. Like, you want to know what's going to be affecting you and how, if it does really affect you as well, how is that going to work?
In the movie The Big Short, where they get Margot Robbie and Anthony Bourdain to like break it down to fucking idiots, that's what we need. Just put Margot Robbie up there and be like, this is what's going to happen with Proposition 124, or 121, which is the next one we'll discuss because it parlays right into this conversation. But we need that. It seems that as George Carlin said, think of the dumbest person you know and realize that half the world is dumber than that. We need someone to dumb it down for us. And so I'm usually about making a more informed voter, because right now we look stupid as fuck out here. But, speaking of not only being informed about tax cuts or tax increases. That brings us to our next proposition, Christopher. That's Proposition 121, Colorado State Income Tax Cut. Give it to me.
So I guess Colorado has a flat income tax rate.
Yeah, and it sits right around 4.5.
Right.
They want to cut that by about 15% of the current number. So when I say that, I don't mean they're cutting it 15% of like your income. It means that it would be dropped down to 4.4%. But what that's going to really, it's going to kind of hurt our pockets a little bit, especially when we're just talking about the money machines, huh?
But I mean, it's not really going to hurt our pockets that much.
It's for anyone making over $100,000. So technically, I mean, that is a 3% reduction in taxes. Just after speaking about how I don't trust the government with the money I give them already, I mean, why would one be so weary about that? Everybody wants a little bit more money in their pocket, and it seems like Colorado has been very intelligent. Their voter pool has shown in the past, even when voting purple or blue, that they won't vote tax increases, which is a predominantly Democratic, standing point.
But like if you're looking at the 100 to 149K a year bracket, it's only going to save them $129. I mean, that's not like a super significant amount of money.
I mean, so you're saying don't take the tax cut just because you think that it would be better used in other resources by the government than if we all had 200 extra bucks in our pocket?
That's a very good point.
It kind of reminds me on that when I get a tax refund, I'm like, God damn it, this is an interest-free loan. And what you did with the money, I didn't like already. And now I get a little bit of it back. And if I don't do it properly, you send my ass to jail or fine me even more. So it seems like it's oftentimes a nickel and dime process. So being able to get one of those nickels or dimes back doesn't necessarily seem like a bad thing. But I'm also going to have to work a little harder to get into that bracket to where it would make the juice worth the squeeze.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those issues where you really need to focus and stuff.
Yeah.
My focus is a little off due to
the marijuana that we've been smoking?
Yes, but that's why we're here. We're here just to talk dumb shit about it, and then you can figure it out on your own.
Yeah, we're just giving you the rough oversight. But speaking of dumb shit and things that we like, let's talk about the next proposition. This one actually kind of pertains to our wheelhouse. Proposition 122, which is access to natural psychedelic substances. It's pretty much the psilocybin campaign. It's more for a medicinal benefit. So it's not like you're going to be able to start buying this like you're buying from dispensaries. There will have to be a little bit more of a stringent policy in place. I feel like that's one of the things that are holding some folks back from voting for it, is that while we do want to see ourselves progress, especially with modern sciences and being able to research these other natural, medicines, do we have the system in place that's best utilized so that we don't look like a clusterfuck of a bunch of crazy people running around because we're giving out mushroom licenses or mushroom med cards willy-nilly?
Well, I mean, you can't purchase mushrooms from a store
yet. But if we leave these things kind of open-ended, I mean, like, where's the next step after this? If we start with research, are we going to get to a legalization where you can get it from a pharmacy similar to a medical dispensary? Or would you have to go through, like, the VA? Like, what are the next steps in place?
Yeah, I don't know, because, I mean, it seems like it's going to be all state-sponsored, like...
But you see that they have, like, DMT therapy in other parts of the country, so that's one of those things that we would be bringing to the forefront as well. I mean, does that mean that it would have to be like an in-house therapy, or would you be able to do an outpatient medication program through the natural medicine?
I would imagine it's inpatient for sure. I would imagine you go there and you're in a safe environment.
So what it says is that it would decriminalize the personal cultivation, possession, and gifting of the following psychedelic compounds, which we kind of have that in place in Denver proper already, but not across the state.
Right.
It would also create a system for state-regulated settings where people could consume psilocybin under trained supervision. So you are correct. And starting in 26, the state could decide to create similar regulated access to DMT, other things, and mescaline, excluding peyote. The fuck? And then it kind of... and it creates penalties for those that are caught under 21 with it. So it seems like it would not be retail stores. That's at least a little bit of insight into it, but it would kind of create a statewide method to which we already have here in Colorado or in Denver, which is I can go around with these space pigs and eat them at my leisure.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think I'm pro for it. You know, I've seen the benefits of microdosing psilocybin. I still take the daily dosage of basic mushrooms and then dip in and out of it. But for those that maybe have a little bit more PTSD, trauma, depression, anxiety, things of that nature, I fully believe that psilocybin could work. And from my experience, I've never had a bad time on DMT. So I can imagine that if it's for medicinal use, it's probably got to work as well. So in regards to Proposition 122, I'm going to go ahead and just make it clear we're a pro 122 proposition.
Yeah, anything that helps with medical research and giving access to people who need that type of stuff, I'm all for it.
That's another reason to give a shout out to Batch. You know, their parent company, MedFarm, now Bud and Mary's, is a medical research plant where they work with Alzheimer's and cancer remedies and things of that nature. So we know the healing powers of the plants and now the fungi. So let's get that on the ballot. Let's get that an approval right there. So we're voting yay on 122. The next one, Chris, is the one for dedicated tax revenue to affordable housing. 123.
Yeah. I forget. I filled out my ballot a while ago, but I forget about all these because I read through them all.
Proud of you.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, affordable housing.
I mean, we bitched about it. You know firsthand that it's impossible to find something that, you know, and imagine if somebody really cut off one of your financial legs. So, like, is it meant to actually broach the subject or actually start helping with the homeless population? What is it exactly?
It looks like if it's approved, it would dedicate hundreds of millions of dollars annually for affordable housing development and related programs. So basically, let's see. Let me read a little bit of the fine print. And so basically it's forcing the state to spend a portion of its budget on affordable housing. And the measure would not directly raise taxes.
Okay, so how are they going to fund it?
So apparently
It's been earmarked?
It would claim on some of the money that the state already collects.
Okay.
So that would be almost $300 million per year initially. And that's about 6 times what the state is currently spending on housing.
Okay, well, so when I'm looking at how would it work under the CPR.org guidelines, it refers back to that 4.55% state income tax. And if that proposition was to pass, then are we worried about, you know, the allocated budget? So if that state tax cuts passes and then this passes, will we still have that $300 million? And will we lose the $400 million that we got from the tax cuts of the higher or the richer folks, and then we're scrambling to find $300 million for the affordable housing? It feels like that one's a chicken egg kind of situation where someone's going to be left out in the cold, and I hate to use that as a pun because we're talking about affordable housing.
I wish you would ask me business ethics.
We're all dumber for listening to this podcast today.
Find your home. So, I mean, obviously, like I said, like this one's, you really have to read this in the moment to really capture what all is going in, because it explains how the money, how all that's going to be handled. And, you know, I mean, before really, I can't remember, I feel like I felt for the affordable housing just because there is something that needs to be done with housing out here.
I agree wholeheartedly in that. Not only for those that are unhoused, but also for the price gouging and the situations going with, the leasing situations with all of these new buildings coming up and just, displacing folks and then pushing them further away from maybe their work or their communities. I do agree that there needs to be something to address the affordable housing situation in Colorado. I couldn't agree more. So that one I'll probably vote yay for as well. We're not going to obviously tip our hand on all of our votes just because that's a fickle bitch and someone will probably end up sending me a death threat. But for some basic things like this, I feel like we could be fair in saying that we're pro psilocybin and we hope that everybody has affordable home above the roof over their head.
And kids eat.
And kids eat. Okay, so these are the ones that have been killing my television. These next ones.
124, 125, and 126?
Yes. So these are the next three. I'm going to let Chris take the reins. He's our guy on this. You go, boy.
Well, I guess there's, you really got to pay attention if you haven't gotten it through the TV yet, that these propositions are very different. Like, they're all kind of getting at the same thing with liquor stores, but they're incredibly different. So we'll start with 124, and this would allow chain liquor stores to significantly expand the number of outlets they can open in Colorado. So I think there's some old laws and different things like that, and in Colorado, liquor stores are only allowed to operate 3 storefronts, with that number set to increase to 4 in 2037.
So it caps you at 3. So I like Mr. B's Liquor. I think that they have one of the best selections of natural wines. The staff's knowledgeable and they're very friendly. And because they have 3 locations, you can grab it when you're going to the Dali thing or if you're downtown. So they would not be able to have a 4th one under the guise?
I do not believe so until 2037.
Okay.
But if this passes, this would ease the restriction, allowing a liquor store to operate at 8 locations, and lifting the cap entirely by 2037.
So does that mean that we would start seeing more like Walmart, Total Wines come in and eventually push our friends out of business if we vote kind of in favor of this proposition to kind of open the floodgates, so to speak?
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Because if you're given unlimited licenses, even your mom and pop shops that have the potential to expand, some of them don't have that kind of capital to fund that, and with rates getting so high. So then you would think your big ones like Total Wine, those places would come in and just buy up all sorts of locations. It makes sense.
No, you're 100%, you're right. And I think that's, so that one may be the fickle beast where we vote not to increase the number of liquor license because oftentimes it may even, I don't think we're having any shortage of liquor stores. There's one on almost every corner already. So maybe capping the potential larger brands, your Kroger's coming in and buying everybody up and then taking over. I like having more mom and pops and small business owners in the community. So I can see why 124 has been in the windows of our local liquor stores, including Spirits, Wines, Provisions, are my local one, which is.
And I mean, really, the only one Total Wine and More is really backing this, and that's probably because they're a liquor store chain with 240 locations across 27 states. That's not personable.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's why I go to the stores I go to.
Yeah.
It's, I don't hate Molly's and Argonauts, and they have a knowledgeable and helpful, friendly staff. But seeing, Casey and Emily at Spirits, or seeing Jared over at Mr. B's, I like being
checking out our friends at Joy.
Yeah, I miss Carolyn. We don't live over there anymore, but I miss them. It's those kinds of personal interactions and how we spend our money. So I can see why no has been in the window.
This one for me, and I'll go ahead and say it. This was the easiest no I've ever made.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What about that glory hole receiver you had?
That was a bad one.
Yeah. It looked like the thing from Alien. All right, so on 124, we have teamed up to go ahead and say we stand with our local liquor stores. We will not be voting to extend the licenses. Obviously, do as you please, but if you're a Total Wine person, sorry for harshing your buzz, bro.
Yeah, and sorry for a shitty selection.
Yeah.
And not good prices. I've been to one.
It's like going to, any other fucking medical dispensary, and you're like, there's not a good deal here. I mean, I'm paying $75 for 500 mil. You should be at Stanley & Kimbo, $33.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great call, Chris. Okay, so the next two are kind of contentious, and after those propositions, we'll briefly talk about the judges, and then we'll get out of y'all's hair. So, 125, allowing grocery and convenience stores to sell wine. We just tried to harp about what would be good for the long-term health of these small business owners and their shops. Does 125 kind of follow that same propriety, or what do we think about that? Because, how many times are we buying, what are we doing when we're at the grocery store? Are we trying to buy the Kendall Jackson? Like, would it have the Outward wines and the Martha Stomans that I like? Like, what exactly are we expecting if we were to vote yes and allow grocery stores and convenience stores to sell wine?
So I don't think I can answer that specific question, like whether or not we'd see kind of the same stuff. But in most of my experiences, going into a grocery store and getting wine, like, it's not a varied and cool selection. It's your basics.
No, I couldn't agree more.
So I mean, like, I don't think you're going to see some grocery store here in Colorado get really creative and start carrying all these natties and different.
Sprouts may, a Whole Foods may. I mean, we know the King Soopers in Glendale has been grandfathered in, and they have that liquor store so you can 1-2 punch it. I have a gas station liquor store neighborhood combo right here where they have a shared door right here on Wads and 55th or whatever. And I will say the one in the hand is worth two in the bush. If you're looking for like a bottle of tequila and you ran out mid mezcal or mid margarita, you can just go grab it, but they don't have, that deep selection of mezcal and things like that. So, like, if you're on the hunt for a specific kind of wine or preferred thing, you're still going to go out of your way to your shops.
But the one thing I think about this, also fun fact, in 1982, voters rejected the measure 65 to 35%. So this has been on the ballot before, back in the day. But anyways, I think the Colorado community has such an ingrained kind of culture that, like, they go to liquor stores to grab things. I cannot tell you if I've ever bought beer at a grocery store. Maybe out here, I can't tell you even since they passed that.
The one joy I'm trying to find in this is the New Orleans model, where I can just run up there and grab a quick bottle of whatever. If you're making a beef bourguignon, you can go grab that bottle of Noir that's $8, $10. Right. So one in the hand is certainly worth two in the bush when you're just shopping for ease of convenience. And I wouldn't hate being able to grab that wild turkey on the way to the football game at a 7-Eleven instead of having to find a specific liquor store. But I do think that this will probably put some of those folks out of business. Not necessarily the finer wine shops and things of that nature, but maybe your drive-through liquor stores that are on the random corners right off the frontage road in Colorado and Colfax. Some of those may lose a little bit of their panache.
But see, and I guess
or
one
clientele.
good thing, I would like to know, like, how once the beer law passed, how that affected liquor stores.
Yeah, that's when,
seeing like across the state of Colorado, was there like a dip in liquor store revenue for beers and things like that? Because again, I mean, this is different with wine, obviously, but at the same time, I feel like depending on the person, I feel like most people go to their liquor stores to grab their bottles of wine.
No, I think wine is one of those instances where it's the same for cannabis. Like, you don't just go shop at the spot where the homeless guy's masturbating outside on Colfax. Like, you go to a spot where you'll know the staff, you're confident the bud tender's knowledgeable, they have a selection that you prefer. That's why we like our Callies and our Akimbos. But, like, that's the same concept with the folks that we're talking about with the wine. But you will lose a little of that revenue when someone's going to pick up, the steak, the potatoes. Oh, I'll grab a bottle of wine and the flowers here to miss a stop on the way home. So it'll be a little bit of a double-edged sword. There will be a convenience factor. Will get a lot of people's votes, yes. But at the same time, I could see how somebody would argue no because they want to keep, the exclusivity of the wine to themselves. I see why they don't want it.
Yeah, I think you can look at it both ways. I think you can be like, hey, if you really want wine, or if you're interested and you want to buy wine from your liquor store and you want to know more about it, you're going to go there because nobody at a supermarket will answer your question. And they aren't going to carry a unique or interesting selection.
No, you're 100% correct. So I think that's exactly the advice somebody's going to want to hear. Like, yeah, it's going to be convenient, but you're not going to go to them like you go to the, your normal spot. So I think that's a fair argument. And you may have swung me on that one, Chris, just from casual discussion as two adults that had different viewpoints on that going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd ever buy a bottle of wine unless I was using it to cook. That would be pretty sweet to be able to grab like some cooking wine or something off the shelf.
Yeah, that would be
But
cool.
other than that, like I'm going to go visit somebody who I can ask like, "Hey, what's exciting? What's cool?"
Yeah, well, get your dick hard that just came in the mail.
And I'll find that at my local liquor store that I love.
Which one do you like now that you're on this side of town?
I mean, I still, because of work.
Mondovino is pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, because of work, I'll still swing by Joy's every now and then. Because it's really not that far. And then I've been hitting up that Mr. B's right there on Spear, right before Spear.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking
What is that, 13th?
They call it the Golden Triangle.
Yeah.
Right there. That's a good call, too. So, like, when you're hitting it, just trying to get back to the Highlands.
Yeah. I look for the staff. That's why I go to these places.
I couldn't agree more, and that's the same for dispensaries and restaurants as well.
And the last booze initiative
Ooh, what's the last one?
is Proposition 126. Who's allowed to deliver alcohol? So, under the current law, liquor stores, supermarkets, and other retailers can only deliver those products using their own employees. This initiative would change that to allow third-party services like DoorDash, Instacart, to do it too.
Okay, so I don't actually hate that because we already have Drizzly in place. My question is, and this, I wasn't thinking more of delivery apps like Uber Eats is bringing, a frozen margarita with you from, like Cantina Loca. She has those killer frozen palomas with mezcal. They're delightful. Or even just the mezcals out of the tap. But at the same time, I was wondering if this would be advantageous for the person that maybe is a walker buyer as well. Like, we know that Rhino is kind of in that gray area where you can smoke pot in the alley, but it's not really legal. And there's, those outdoor patios where you're drinking in the street. Would this mean that we could start like ordering a cocktail from Denver Central Market to go and then take it as we walk down through the alley to smoke pot? Or something like that? Or does it have to just be Uber Eats?
I don't think this deals with that.
It doesn't mean take out drinks. It has to be delivery?
Well, I mean, even now, like the current law where you can, when Polis.
Yeah, for the COVID things?
Yeah, where you can have that and delivery and to-go orders with restaurants. And this measure would make the policy permanent.
Okay, so this is just almost like an affirmation, like reaffirming that the other policy was working with a little more.
Yeah, but
fine-tuned.
even if you went, like, let's say, which I did a lot of times, walked up to Illegal Pete's and grabbed a margarita, it's still legal to consume that, like, on the streets.
Yeah, I mean, fuck off.
But then it said that, okay, so. They said this change would require third-party delivery services to have an internal or external security process for drivers who deliver alcohol. So, checking ID.
I mean, same thing GoPuff does when you order a vape pen, or Drizzly does when you order extra beer when you run out. So, no harm, no foul in that one, I wouldn't think. What that does kind of remind me of is the Uber signing a deal with Toronto to deliver marijuana. So it seems like this one may be a yay for me just because it provides more revenue generation from restaurants who may want to be able to sell these drinks, things of that nature. And at the same time, it gives that person the prerogative to not have to make their own fucking Negroni. You know, like, I don't have to go buy a bottle of Campari just because Morgan wants a Negroni or something.
Right. The one thing, I wish it would just make, I mean, I've never ordered delivery alcohol. Like, I've ordered it with to-go orders from restaurants during the pandemic and stuff. I would order, like, a cocktail, you know? But I've never, like, used a liquor store order service to deliver booze.
Oh, okay. I have done that.
Okay.
We used to throw, we throw great parties now as a company, but back in the day, we would get drunk and drink too much, and Drizzly would go to, like, Molly's for you and bring, like, 4 cases of beer. It's worth it when you have,
Right.
like, everybody doing it and you add the $9 extra to the fee.
So I think the people that are against this are, opening it up to these third-party deliveries when currently there's a lot of liquor stores that do their personal delivery.
So the people that are mad about it are people that have their own drivers?
Well, no, like the liquor stores currently, like the independent liquor stores that offer delivery services, they offer them through their...
Yeah, like Molly's.
Yeah.
With their fleet of cars.
Right. And some of the independent liquor stores, the smaller ones, have cars or, they'll deliver it. But they're saying like this would affect their bottom line by allowing third parties to come to the liquor stores.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a valid argument on their behalf, because wouldn't you want, whether or not it's the third-party delivery picking up an order or what have you, you want more people buying the booze. So if somebody was, let's say, limited with, they're watching their kids, but their kids are so fucking miserable they want a glass of wine. Like, wouldn't this be beneficial to where you could buy those third party and have it delivered to you, even without, like shipping a package across the, city through Uber? Why couldn't that be wine? Is that the same concept?
Well, I guess the small liquor stores are arguing that they stand to lose a significant portion of business. So
because people
they point
would
to
get
the struggles that restaurants have had with delivery service fees.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fair. I mean, I don't know exactly. I know that DoorDash bends restaurant owners over a barrel and then just fucks them. So, I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but at the same time, I would think that, obviously if people were going to do delivery, most of the time it comes from a Molly's or an Argonaut. So this would be your opportunity to kind of compete with them, would be my counter to that. But I may be misspeaking. Like, you have maybe you have something that I want, that Screaming Eagle that you can't get at Argonauts, something like that, or a bottle of Willet or Blanton's, or, something where you have something that the Walmart doesn't have. That could be advantageous, and it may, attract a buyer that otherwise would have just defaulted to whatever was available at Argonauts. If somebody was specifically searching out Whistle Pig,
Yeah.
That's what I would guess. But at the same time, I'm fucking stupid. So that's why we had to talk about that. So I appreciate it, Chris. You gave us some good insight on the booze cruise that we may be looking at coming forward.
Yeah, pay attention to that and vote whatever you think is, the best bet for Colorado.
Okay, I like it. All right. So the last thing we're going to touch on before we leave, it's the judges. I know that we've talked a lot about, how do we right a lot of these wrongs, whether it be the Last Prisoners Project fighting for, wrongful prosecution of cannabis, charges and things of that nature, or, the cash bail system being a racist system across the country, or the fact that there's there's a lot of issues that we face as a country, especially through our judicial system. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the judges voting and how we should go about it. And so I really think everyone needs to go to CPR.org and click on the judges one, because it says, how do you judge a judge? And so let's read the guide, Chris. Will you give us a little bit of insight into what we're kind of looking into, or, what to expect when we're starting to tackle these, these conversations?
Yeah, so I guess this is a part of the ballot where you actually really need to focus. If you want to be an engaged and informed voter, then really look at this, because you got to kind of do some online searching. Set around some time, and you can click
How much time did you set aside for this? As someone that's not filled her out, because I wanted to talk with you, because I'll admit that I'm not necessarily intelligent, but I wanted to talk it through with, the community and see what, how it plagues and helps folks. How did you go about making these informed decisions?
So,
how long did it take?
I mean,
like an hour?
No, probably I was reading up on all the propositions just because you can't tell what they mean on the ballot.
Correct.
You just simply can't. So I went through that, and then on the judges one, they have a website where it has their performance evaluations. And so you can look and see and click on judges and see how they measure up.
So there's also a gentleman on Reddit who's a lawyer that tries cases across the city, and he used his example of how he rates his judges based off an evaluation of if they're not operating at over 70% in terms of what the lawyers think are credible, like getting the results back in a timely manner. Not necessarily do they agree or disagree, but do they have, proper calls and backing behind it? So these evaluations, that's the number he said. And he's just some Reddit guy, but we're just some podcast dudes. So we're just trying to make this approachable for everybody. But CPR.org has a hyperlink, and it says Office of Judicial Performance Evaluations. So don't skip this part of the ballot. This is very crucial. It changes a lot in how the community is made up and how it's policed and everything in between. And so this is a very, serious conversation to have with you and your ballot. And so we're not going to dive into each one specifically, but we wanted to kind of highlight this process. And after reading a little bit about it on Twitter and Reddit and this guy talking about how, some judges, rule more in his favor. And he was like, they don't necessarily get a higher grade for that because sometimes he doesn't think a motion should have gotten through. And so, he holds the judges in that same, and he may just be blowing smoke up our ass, but as people that aren't trying cases but are watching people, plead for their life in terms of our judicial system, and we see a lot of wrongful arrest and wrongful prosecution, I think we should probably be a little more heightened and a little more focused this year when we're looking at it, as all of these judges have been on the bench for at least 2 years, so they have a track record that we can actually dive into.
Yeah, and I mean, it does take a little bit of time. But if you go to that performance review, you click on somebody and you can go right over. If you want to read a brief blurb, you can. But you can go to the retention survey, and it's just a survey report, and you can see how other judges and lawyers voted for her performance.
Okay, yeah, that's what that dude was talking about on Reddit. So you can actually dive into all of the honorable judges for your county. There's county court judges, and there's obviously district court judges for everybody. So get your ass over there, and judicialperformance.colorado.gov will lead you to that page. But I'd recommend navigating through the CPR.org because they're not giving you any left-right bias. They're just giving you the information at hand, and then you can make an informed or uninformed decision based off of where else you fucking get your information. As Scott Van Pelt said, I don't trust shit on the internet. Not since people started making money on TikTok. But realistically, there's no reason to ever fucking trust the internet. So do a lot of reasonable digging. Make sure there's some nice EDUs, ORGs, and GOVs at the end of those websites, and not comms, nets, and things like that. Before we go, is there anything we didn't cover? Obviously, we're Heidi Ganahl versus Jared Polis. Polis, the incumbent governor. He's kind of running on it. Let's continue to work on the progress. I don't agree with everything he's done. I think we've kind of tried to mask a lot of our bigger issues like homelessness and things of that nature. But at the same time, I have a little bit more faith than what would possibly happen if Heidi was in control. So I'm going to openly say that I'll be voting for Jared Polis, so he gets the stamp of approval from Coke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything really.
Hancock, on the other hand.
Mayors have a tough time, man. I'd hate to be a fucking mayor.
They get in their own goddamn way half the time.
Well, it's because
it's
because there's this illusion of a lot of power, and it's like you're always overshadowed by the governor.
And you have the city council that can literally just like light smoke up your ass at any time.
The coolest thing you can hope for as a city mayor is your sports team wins national titles.
Yeah, like, and then you're like, yeah, we'll send our fire department out into the parade. Those are huge bonus points. You get to ride out there. You probably get to take some pictures with the captain. Like,
Yeah.
if you did not take advantage of the Avalanche parade, then you were doing yourself a disservice in the political landscape.
But overall, I think Polis has done a well enough job
To warrant another.
to warrant a re-election.
Okay. And then
Yeah, there I'm kind of party voting.
are you? See, I'm not a member of the party. So.
I mean, on paper I'm a member of the party, but I'm not like I'm
You're not
not
like-
a strict party voter.
When was the last time you donated to a political person? Have you?
I don't have money to donate to political
Okay.
people.
Because I've never done that either, and so I just wasn't sure.
Me donating $20 isn't going to help me with my taxes.
I mean, you're right. Thanks to our friends over at Colorado Public Radio for providing all of this information to everybody. Hopefully y'all found something, insightful. Chris is smarter than I am. I hope everyone has a great week. We're going to party our tits off tonight. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Stay high, stay hungry.
Smoke some politics.
There you go. Cheers.